Hello, this is Alex Birkett, and you are listening to the Long Game Podcast. This episode is a part of our Kitchen Side series, where we pull back the curtain and show you the behind-the-scenes conversations, debates, strategies, and brainstorming sessions happening inside our agency. In this conversation, we unpack one of the biggest questions in marketing right now. How do you measure success in AI search? We dig into why traditional attribution models are starting to break down, or rather accelerating in their breakdown, why AI visibility is more like a reflection or a mirror of your brand than a channel you can optimize for in isolation, and what marketers should be measuring as buyer behavior shifts from traditional search links to AI assistants and workflows. Along the way, we discuss self-reported attribution, prompt tracking, customer research, reviews, product experience, and why the companies that win in AI search may be the ones least focused on gaming AI search itself, and most on building brands that people trust. Without further ado, here is the Long Game Podcast.
I mean, before we get into all the business stuff, Alex knows this, but I often order multiple entrees for lunch or dinner. And I did it again recently with friends who haven't seen me do it before. And they were just like, what's happening? And even the waiter was like, where do I put this third dish that there's no room on a table? And I just joked with Lisa of, hey, what if I just started an Instagram handle of like Double Dinner David and I just posted every time I had double entree meals just for fun. And it's one of those things where you just kept playing on it. I'm like, oh yeah, what if I got sponsored by like restaurants or something? And then what if I got sponsored by Lululemon? Because I mean, I'm pretty fit, but I'm eating all these meals like sponsored by Lululemon's running shorts or something.
Definitely.
I think there's something there. Well, you know the Louis C.K.'s old show, the concept of the bang bang.
Oh, yes.
It's like when they go to double dinner.
I've heard you say it, but I don't know where it came from.
Yes, they do. It's like a double header. You know, it's like they go to dinner at a sushi restaurant and then follow it up with dinner at a barbecue restaurant. And in the show, they're both like very depressed about it. Like they're clearly not excited. It's not like, oh, let's do a bang bang. It's like, fine. We'll all right. And then they're like, what about Italian and Thai? And they're like, I can't do Italian and Thai. What about barbecue?
It's a lot of carbs.
They're like really bummed about it.
About doing it.
Is this like a sober journey? Is there any assistance?
No, they're just like, let's do a bang bang.
Oh dear.
It's just pure gluttony.
Oh God.
Allie, you have to understand, if there was assistance, I'd be doing like triple dinner.
Mm-hmm. Nigel and I did Bang Bang once when he was in New York. We were, Nigel from OGM. I just wanted to make sure people know who I'm talking about. So we were at Emily, the restaurant in West Village. They've got a fantastic burger. It's like way over the top, but they had maybe a 30-minute wait to get in. And Nigel brings me outside and he's like, hey man, I got a great idea, but it's also a terrible idea. What if we pre-gamed with some pizza? I was like, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I love it. Me and Lisa have done it recently where she'll book a really late dinner reservation or something. We're both starving or there's a wait. But the last time that happened, it was a Thai restaurant that our reservation wasn't for another hour and a half. And we took the gamble to see if we could get in early. Completely packed. So we just open Google Maps. We find another restaurant nearby. We're like, this place looks good. Let's go get a snack. Probably had like 2 small dishes, like three small plates. And we're like, all right, we're good. Let's go check on a restaurant. Still packed. And we're like, all right, let's go to another restaurant. So we had 3 dinners, like 3 proper dinners, not just 2 dinners and two entrees in one place. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. As much as I enjoyed it, I felt like crap. Like my body I woke up and I still felt full, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about food.
All right. So what topics did you prepare?
Okay. This question is coming up a lot more. I think, Alex, you might have mentioned this in another conversation where I think a year ago or even just earlier this year, the conversation was, we need to show up in AI, or like, how do we show up in AI? And now a lot of the question is it working? Like, we're doing all this stuff, we have the tracking, and I'm hearing that, I just heard that question come up in a sales call just now. And so I think it's worth talking about again, even though, on LinkedIn, it's either I'm talking about listening to sales transcripts or I'm talking about self-reported attribution, but I think it's worth sharing some data as well on like why and how we need to be doing attribution for LLM visibility and like how that's impacting the sales funnel.
I can take this, and strong opinion loosely held. I'm willing to change my mind, but I actually think it's fairly obvious that we need to be doing self-reported attribution. I don't think AI visibility is ever going to have clear clickstream data, which is what most telemetry is based on, most attribution models, whether you're doing first click, last click, linear, algorithmic, whatever you want to call it. That's all presuming that somebody clicks and lands on your website. So most of this is not happening. Anyway, the clicks aren't happening for the most part. And when they do happen, it's highly variable. So first off, like LLM referral traffic, it's almost the exact approximation of what we were doing for like click tracking and click-through rate from Google search. But the difference is the models change every day, every week. Sometimes they link out more, sometimes they link out less. So with that measurement, while it could be directionally interesting, at least checking what pages are performing, I think you're measuring the measurement more than you're measuring the performance. And with AI visibility, I think that's the question you're getting to, David, is if we track 100 or 1,000 prompts, where is the downstream impact of that on our revenue? So the AI visibility to me is more of a mirror or like it's almost like a brand recall survey in some cases where it's like you just want to see where you stack up in relation to the competition and how much share of voice you have. And it obviously depends on what prompts you're tracking. So you could answer multiple business questions through your AI visibility. You could see your citation share on top of the funnel type queries. You could see your sentiment on branded queries. You could see your visibility and share of voice on category queries. But none of those, those have differing, I guess, downstream impacts on what would lead to somebody purchasing or signing up, right? So I feel like self-reported attribution, while imperfect, people's memories are imperfect, is the only measure that actually makes sense.
Yeah, I've even analyzed our own data, and I won't share client data on this, but for us, like we have an open text field where people can say how they found us. We have reporting set up. So if it ever says any of the LLMs or AI or something like that, it automatically bucks them. And when I ran the report, I won't say actual numbers, but let's say out of every 100 leads that say they found us through an LLM, HubSpot only explicitly tagged them as AI referral 10 to 20% of the time. So like 80 to 90 of the other leads that came through LLMs that they said found us through an LLM are not tagged just by default. So hopefully that just makes a case for people to realize that this is another data point. I think the question that will eventually come up, because a lot of this is within a context of, okay, they came in through direct or organic, but they said LLMs, fine. But where I wonder the conflict might come up later, as it does with attribution and credit, is let's say SRA is ChatGPT, but clickstream data says paid. So like maybe they found you through ChatGPT or whatever, they went to a search, they clicked on your paid search ad. Like how does one start reconciling that? I don't have an answer, but that's something that just came to mind as AI and LLM traffic becomes a lot more prominent in the analytics.
I don't know if you can reconcile two different systems.
I was going to say, I don't have an answer on the reconciliation, but we've already seen kind of an AI assist in direct traffic. Direct traffic uptick following visibility uptick is one of the more dotted line impacts that we've seen in our GEO work. And I can imagine it's the same effect of you're doing comparative research in ChatGPT or Claude, gathering, your short list, and then later on you see a paid ad, and you click on the paid ad just from familiarity. So that's impossible to track back, but it also depends on how folks are answering that SRA question of like, where did you first hear about us? Maybe they did, hear about you for the first time in AI. But then that last touch is the paid or a direct, search.
It's also what business question are you asking and what is the purpose of attribution? Because I think oftentimes people want to use attribution as a political tool or as a catch-all to basically analyze their entirety of their customer journey across all channels. And not just across all channels, but like split discretely by channel as if it's a siloed touch point. But if you were running both of those measurement systems, David, if you had a last click conversion from paid acquisition, and you had somebody saying that they found you in ChatGPT, I think those are answering two different questions, and both are interesting data points in that their memory clearly associated you with the AI search, in that that's what came up on self-reported. And it's almost like whatever came after that, it's demand capture in those terms. It's like whether it was a Google organic search click or a paid acquisition click, or a direct website visit, that's still interesting because you want to see where, I guess, like your bucket is that you're collecting that demand. But to me, the interesting question is like, where was the influence generated? Where was the awareness generated? Because that's, for the most part, what we're doing with marketing, right? If they clicked on a branded search, paid search ad, that's just like that last little, it's like the OG Ananobi, although his was more epic, but like, that's just the tip in, right? Got to bring in a Knicks reference. Oh, thank God I could do that.
Yeah, that was a good way to put it. Yeah, well done to calling that back.
Yeah, I don't know. Attribution is a complex and murky area.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting to me right now, because I've been getting this question a lot too, and maybe I'm just posing questions that I keep hearing, is on sales calls. The question I also hear is, how quickly can we see results? Similar to SEO, like how quickly can we start ranking? For AI visibility, it's how quickly can we start showing up in ChatGPT for whatever prompts. And I've seen a range of things happen. Like I remember one of our clients, the moment we published an article, they started showing up in the outputs within 2 weeks. But we can't just go saying that that'll happen for everyone. And I'm not sure if either of you are seeing anything where you'd feel comfortable putting a time range on that, because it's different, of course, for an established website or brand. But how do y'all think about that?
I don't want to be the pedantic one always, but I just think like how is one defining results? Like you can certainly see movement, but like, is that meaningful? I think it's arguably easy to pick up a citation within a set of prompts within a couple weeks, if not a couple days. There was a study recently, I think it was in an academic paper actually, about how easy it is to poison AI answers. And they basically pinpointed 13 words in a Reddit thread that completely swayed the answer. So sometimes it's completely nominal what will influence an AI output, but is that meaningful over the course of like an entire category? Does that generate pipeline and revenue? To me, that's questionable, but I think it's very easy to influence results in terms of like picking up a citation or moving the needle slightly on a single prompt for AI visibility.
Can you share more about that research? I didn't see that. Like they were able to poison the outputs with 13
I'm going to
words?
share you this in Slack. So this is an academic research paper. And then there was a write-up on it. So let me see if I can find that. And if you guys want to pump this through ChatGPT or something and give you the summary.
The word poison here is really interesting to me. Was it generally about negative sentiment having maybe a heavier influence from UGC platforms?
No, I think it's an academic term that's basically calling what AI search specialists do manipulation. So,
but it's
as in you can create a fake Reddit account, post on a thread, and influence the results, which I think most normies would call poisoning or manipulation. I don't think most people would call that ethical marketing.
It's not optimization. I mean, I guess it is.
Yeah, like if you talk to your parents and said that's what is going on, I think they would say, "Ugh."
Yeah. Can I trust anything on Reddit?
Probably not.
Well, I know what I'm doing this weekend.
How often do you, or how fast do you think you can pull results from an AI search campaign?
When we were working with a client last year, there's a lot of old content all over the internet with their pricing. And they had changed that, and they didn't do outreach to correct, the third-party information. This is when it was still becoming clear just how influential third-party content was in AI. We did an outreach campaign to correct all of that pricing information on review sites, listicles. We saw a change in the prompts that we were tracking within a month. Now that's correct.
And that was for rectifying information, not necessarily a visibility result.
Yes. So it was more of I would call it more of a sentiment, or like not necessarily positioning, but just information play, an information update play. This was already content that was being cited. So I can't speak to going from like no citation to being a part of a citation set. I know you've also, done your own research on how quickly that citation set changes. So I did monitor that list month over month and found new things that popped up with the old pricing information. We go in, fix it, and we were able to maintain a correct output when asking about the pricing for this product. We were able to maintain that for the entirety of the project. But yeah, within a month, we saw a shift. And that feedback came from their sales team. So when they were doing self-reported attribution, how'd you hear about us? ChatGPT. But it told me that you had a free plan and you don't. So there was an issue with moving those deals through the pipeline when they came in kind of poorly qualified.
I think that is significantly more impressive than what most people talk about with regards to AI search performance. Because I was thinking about results on a sort of ladder where a lot of what we talk about, or what people talk about on LinkedIn, is around getting cited. And I think depending what prompts you're tracking, how many you're tracking, and how you're tracking them, I think it's trivially easy to get cited against a prompt, especially if the prompt is very long tail, it's very specific, and there's very low competition. And also citations, to your point, Allie, on some of the research we've done, they change over quite often. They're highly variable across different prompts and across different engines. So going from 0% because you've got no content on that subject to 2%, which is, what does that even mean? Is that meaningful? I don't think so. Incredibly easy. And my next step in the ladder is kind of where everybody's searching right now, which is the recommend me the best B2B SEO agency that works with SaaS brands and focuses on AI search and has analytical capabilities and has at least one co-founder who lives in Chicago, right? You can pretty easily get mentioned in a couple listicles and, do the Reddit stuff and post your own listicle. I actually think those are much easier results to fake. And then you get into these categorical prompts and queries. Like I've been thinking about the top of the funnel, right? I just searched, because I posted on LinkedIn about this. I just searched best CRM. And almost always now in AI overviews, ChatGPT, they'll give you like the definition, talk about how they're used, and then they'll give you examples of the most popular CRMs. I think my hunch would be that it's the hardest to get into that set because you're essentially associated with a category or a problem set. You know what I mean? But that sentiment, I'd put that near the top of the hierarchy of hard things to change, because my presumption is a lot of information is already fueling the inaccuracies.
Yeah, you're swaying a consensus, right? So like if we're following your cocktail party analogy, you're basically trying to change the direction of the entire conversation. And it can feel a bit like whack-a-mole, but that to me is like the fun part of all of this. Obviously, visibility is really important. You want to be part of the conversation in the first place. You want to have that initial assist that would then lead to a paid click or, whatever the final capture looks like. But as we work with more mature companies who have an established presence, they're either legacy solutions or they've been around the block, or they have such a stellar product that third-party presence is inevitable. Then what you're getting into is the nitty-gritty of like, not do we show up, but how do we show up? Because you forget a lot of folks who don't either have interest in how all this stuff works, or maybe they don't really dig into the citation lists. Like they're taking that initial response in ChatGPT or whatever, and they're like, cool, this is trimmed down all the noise. Now I have this signal and this is what I'm going to focus on. And then based on, research that Kate did, Then they'll go ask their friends. Then they'll go do direct research. Then they'll go look at forums or whatever. But if you're not part of that first 5 and said in a positive way, then the journey's over. You could have like, what are the best CRMs? Who are the best agencies? And you've got da-da-da-da-da. We've seen this product also perform well, but, or like, you see those little caveats in the answers and you're like, well, shit, that might have just cut me out of play altogether. And so as we work with these larger teams that have PR resources and have product teams and customer education teams, that right there is the untapped potential, is like getting in the room with those folks, not just how people find you, but like, are they sticking around? What are they saying about you online? How do we get that stuff pointing in the right direction so that when net new folks find us, it's said in a positive way and encouraging them to continue on that journey?
That's a fascinating point. Did you see JH's post about how the models are giving more negative recommendations?
Mm-mm.
So it's not just here's the top 5 SEO agencies. It's like, here's one, but I actually wouldn't recommend it for you because they are out of your price range or something like that. So it's like just
surprising to me.
Just a mention in the AI output, which would be tracked as visible or share of voice. Now it doesn't necessarily compute positive value for a brand. It could be actually an exclusion from the consideration set.
Yeah, it's not just like a
further complicating attribution.
Which is also why the prompts, I know, David, your soapbox is sales call transcripts and self-reported attribution. My soapbox is prompt set and how they're developed.
Yep.
Like making sure that they're thorough.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough variability that you're capturing all the different ways that people use search, capturing some more casual searches, like help me, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm just fascinated by how people use AI. It's not even close to how they used to use Google. I also think that the self-reported attribution is really important because it's ultimately more voice to customer research. Like, how did you find us? What did you search?
Mm-hmm.
And how did that conversation go to the best of your memory? Or have your lead pull up their ChatGPT when you're on the call, when you're on the demo call and go through that conversation with them. Yeah.
They love doing it. Actually, it's weird. You'd be surprised.
Let me show you.
They're like, oh, they start geeking out. It's amazing.
That's funny.
Have y'all found, this is going a different direction. Have y'all found that the way you now search on Google has changed?
Yeah.
Like,
now that they pull in AIO,
yeah, I use it like ChatGPT.
I've caught myself like asking full on like long questions in Google search now because I know the AI overviews comes up and I just like, I observe how I use these platforms and technology. I observe how other people like in public transit use it too. Cause I'm like, I'm very curious and I'm opening up the AI mode, like expanded chat session in Google now. So it makes me wonder, because right now, at least last I checked, ChatGPT drives a lot more AI traffic referrals that's tracked in Google Analytics.
Mm-hmm.
I would be curious when Gemini or AI mode ends up overtaking that just by nature of it being the default. Because I watched my friends, we were talking about something and they all pulled out their phone, they searched a thing. It wasn't ChatGPT. It was all Google.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at the AI overview.
All my friends that are like very analog friends, like my husband's a teacher and all my friends who are in healthcare and stuff, they just go straight to Google still, but it is longer tail queries. I was chatting the other day about something at my dentist and then I noticed I was using AIO. And then I actually went back and I went to see what are the top 10 results from my super long question. And they were pretty specific pieces of content written for what I assume was more of a longer tail question or use case. So that's an interesting study too, is what is now showing up for those 10 blue links when people search longer prompts in Google.
I think this is the interesting part of all of this is the conversation almost always lies within the channel and the hyper-specific technical optimizations. But to me, the most interesting focus point is the customer behavior because everything is downstream from that. And also, I guess, upstream from that because, the technology changes the consumer behavior too, to the point we're on right now, which is like ChatGPT coming out fundamentally altered how we use Google search, even from a classic, search bar perspective on your web browser. I find that I'm even conscious of like what the result is going to be based on what my query is. Like
Yeah.
I'm now almost preempting whether I'm like doing a navigational search or a fact-based search or a longer conversational search that I would usually do in ChatGPT or Claude, but I'm just too lazy to pull up the application or whatever. And I'll use Google for all of those, but in slightly different ways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been talking about, Claude and how mostly business users, obviously, I think Claude has definitely hit its stride right now. And I was thinking back to my personal usage. To me, Claude is just like my assistant. Like it's got all the context, it's got all the connectors. Like it helps me make sense of things, generate things, prepare for things. Very, very infrequently does it surface a brand recommendation. But when it does, it's usually when I'm trying to problem solve and I'm in really deep in the use case. And so I wondered, do you two use Claude at all? Like we used to use ChatGPT at Google, or is it mostly like work tasks?
I still use all of them, quite frankly. Like because I have a long history with my personal ChatGPT account, and we have a business one and I have a personal one. So I often ask my more personal queries around like how I should dress or whatever, like what furniture I should buy.
And it knows you.
Yeah. So like I went to this wedding recently in Saint-Tropez, and I was hyperventilating over, there was like 5 costumes, right? 5 outfits to wear. One of them was very complicated. It was a Riviera glam outfit. So I had multiple long conversations with ChatGPT about how to pick the best outfit. And I think, Allie, you'll vouch for me that it turned out really good.
Yeah, you guys looked great. Go chat.
But because of that, when I was in France, when I was in Paris at a restaurant, I'm not a big wine guy. I don't understand tons about wine. My girlfriend does. JH does. Shouts out. So I would take a screenshot of the wine menu and be like, explain these to me. Don't recommend me something. I don't like to off-ramp my decisions to AI. I think that's foolish. But I'm like, give me the explanations of each of these. And it would say, oh, this is a crisp white, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of fairly common. It's no risk on this one. And then it's like, this is the creative one. This one's like the outlandish one. It's a high risk, high reward. But then it would pull in a reference from my past conversations about the Riviera Glam. And it's like, this one's perfect for sipping wine on the Riviera. It's actually, you and your girlfriend will love this one. And I'm like, this is so funny. It's like, you know me so well.
Yeah, I don't use ChatGPT anymore. I think I should, just to understand like the outputs or even see what the ad experience is like for a lot of that. But I have been telling prospects and clients like, hey, just if you have your own LLM tracking set up, just know that they don't by default track Claude. Because after building my own LLM visibility tool, I realized how expensive it is to use Anthropic tokens. So that's why they charge so much, which I still don't believe they should. It's kind of a racket, but here we are. But the interesting thing is for tools like Peak, they're like default tracking Perplexity. And I think Ben, our team, was like, I don't know anyone who uses Perplexity. I don't use it.
Yeah, but the weird thing, Ben said that yesterday, and then we got a lead that came in and it said Perplexity. And I was like, did he just like manifest this?
In a weird way? Yeah.
Like negative manifestation or something like that. So dude, I'm the same. Like I haven't used Perplexity since like they launched, but apparently people do.
But one can reason that from all the headlines and even some data that we can get, where most of Claude's usage is from people in a business context. I won't say it's like just business users, because like they're all consumers. They just use Claude mostly in a business context. Even same for Copilot. Like my wife is working at a Fortune 10 company, can't use anything except Microsoft Copilot, even though it sucks. And so I think I won't say it's a mistake, but I'll say that by focusing so intently on just ChatGPT, which tends to have a lot more consumer use cases, folks might be missing a large segment of the B2B ICP that they're trying to target.
Do you think that there's a different modality for tracking these engines, though, because the Claude users are mostly business? And there's a gap between that fact and this assumption, but my assumption is more people are using agentic tools like Cowork and Claude Code to do things, to generate things, right? whereas ChatGPT often is used as a sort of answer engine or a quick search or something like that. So visibility within ChatGPT makes a ton of sense as it does on AI overviews, because you're not asking AI overviews to do a 10-step research process and click a bunch of links on your behalf. Whereas Claude Code is going to go into documentation. It's going to analyze what the best tool is for a given product that you're building out. And I was just using Claude Cowork to do some research on something, and I noticed it kind of clicked into like 20 different links. So is the visibility that a brand eventually interfaced with, is that it feels like the tip of the iceberg within those engines, whereas it's the whole iceberg within ChatGPT. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like a different way people use it.
I will attempt to pick up what you're putting down. So there was another piece. Like I've been to a couple like SEO meetups recently, and I just realized just how much more technical people are than I am at these conversations. And I just learned a ton. And one of the conversations was about, hey, there's different types of LLM bots that go to your website. There are the ones that train. There's the ones that fetch. I forget what the third one is. I think it's like RAG. Maybe that's fetch. Yeah, the RAG. And
the retrieval. Yeah.
That plus this concept of, should we have a markdown version of our website? So the two are related because, as you said, Alex, like people use these tools in different ways. Like Claude Chat versus Cowork versus Code are all different. Codex is different, but the way that we're thinking about optimizing for each of these should probably segment by the use case. Mm-hmm. So where we landed with the person I was talking to was Claude Code actually goes through your technical documentation in order to learn how to use your code and implement it or whatever in the product that's being built. And so in those cases, it's actually very important to serve up your site in a markdown file, because you want to make sure it can access the entire content of the page and not have to deal with all the stripping away all the HTML and everything. So the conclusion was like, if you're a technical company with an API and all that stuff, yeah, you should probably serve your site as a markdown. If you're B2B SaaS selling to marketers who are, maybe they're vibe coding, but not as much like a developer, probably don't need to worry about that. So there's starting to be a splintering of how to optimize these. And then the question is, okay, like it got to your site to retrieve like the information. Is it cited? Like, does that matter? That's not relevant at all.
It's so opaque to the user that like what value would it have outside of providing information to do a job on behalf of a user? So to me, like this all leads to the conclusion that what we call AI search or AI visibility is not one monolithic thing. It's several different things. Even within the category of AI visibility, thinking about peak, profound, et cetera, what you're tracking in terms of prompts are answering several different business questions that accord to different parts of the organization. Yet we just call it one thing. It's so much more.
And someone could even argue that the example I just used is post sales. Like, oh, someone would only be searching or like doing that if they already use your product, so it doesn't matter. But the thing is, people are actually searching post sales questions before they even talk to sales personnel. They'd be like, how does this integrate with this CRM that I'm using or whatever? Your technical documentation walks through that. Like they want to do all that discovery before they even talk to anyone. So I think the whole, that's a post-sales conversation, it's not for acquisition, has just gone out the window. I don't know if that was even relevant before, but
I don't know if that's entirely true though.
Like, no?
No, because when I'm building tools, when I'm vibe coding, I constantly run across products that I've never heard of or I don't know much about that Claude chooses for me, or at least gives me like a sample set of options and says, which of these do you want to use? Here's the pros and cons. Mm-hmm. So I haven't bought it yet, but it's still kind of surfacing it to me. And a couple times I've purchased, a $20 per month subscription to something.
I've done it a couple times,
that I didn't know before. Yeah. So it's kind of weird.
The integrations point is, I think, like we've built integrations content to support with acquisition for certain clients whose products, like that is a differentiating factor for them with their competitors. And that is a place where they tend to make a sale, is when they're more vocal and customers know about their integration. So I can see that being both like a pre and post sale asset. I've used Chat and Claude to figure out how to use some of our tools that we already have. I'm like, how do I set this up? How do I do this? Because I don't want to spend time going through help documentation. I do think a lot, like, but this is a sweeping generalization, but I think a lot of software companies have really tightened up their service teams. So you don't always have the option to talk to a live person depending on what tier you're at or whatever. So I can see technical documentation helping feed almost like enablement or activation as well, which is, I think, an underserved component of all of this. Because like I said, strong usage, good feedback, great reviews, like vocal customers online is a huge part of what feeds back into that acquisition play. And that's the part that it's harder for marketing teams to control for good reason, right? So you need to have both of those engines running. And that's where I think product and customer education are inherently involved in all this.
It's a flywheel you just described.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny, like how myopic people focus on the tactics within, a citation set. I've been playing around with this idea for a while, and some of the essays for the newsletter have been written about this kind of upstream concept of probability engineering, that I think some of the most effective things you could do for AI visibility, for brand visibility, like the most like surface layer, approximation of where you show up, are completely orthogonal or like adjacent to. It's like you have to flank that. If you're just doing outreach to listicles, if you're just writing listicles, it might work in the short term, but it just feels like the most effective things are that, right? Like that's a moat that you're building. It's post sales, it's product content almost. And then that fuels the reviews that then actually are hard to fake once the listicles get washed out. So like applying focus there, it doesn't even look like AI search, but
no,
it's the most effective thing you can do for AI search,
You wrote an essay, the post-channel marketer. You equated them to like an integrated growth marketer. I talked a lot about that at the event I spoke at a couple weeks ago. And you mentioned, their job is kind of balancing a portfolio of plays, trying to weight what's most important, what can wait, especially if you have a small budget. That's part of that portfolio. Like whoever that person is and on your team, whatever their title is, like they should have a line to product and to customer education /service/success, feeding back things that show up in AI search, feeding back things that show up in the forums and the communities, and also activating, customer advocates or evangelists or whatever, and keeping all of that running. Like I think it's someone sitting at this huge, control panel, figuring out what to toggle, like what to turn on, what to turn off, like how to allocate time and budget, and keeping it all kind of going, like juggling at the same time. It's a really interesting skill set, but it's not just like marketing PR. Those are like probably the big two players, right? But it's a lot of other teams too.
That's why I think I'm relating AI visibility scores to something like a brand recall survey, because I guess it is a measure and I guess it is a metric, but it's not something that you wouldn't do a brand recall survey across two geos, compare the two. And then like your score is whatever your score is, like that wouldn't be the surface area in which you affected the score. Do you know what I mean? Like your AI visibility is your AI visibility. That is the gestalt presence of your brand within those prompts. But how you affect it has to be measured in different ways that influence AI visibility. But like, for instance, the reviews, that may be one input. You're not necessarily measuring like a myopic view of the citation retrieval rate of those. You're measuring the quality and quantity of reviews on the review site, right? And that's a different lane. And that's kind of what I mean by this post-channel marketer is they're looking at the scoreboard, this brand recall survey, this digital mirror that is AI visibility. And then they're picking and choosing based on the underlying data what the channels could be that could effectuate change within that scoreboard. But the scoreboard is not where the game is played, No.
And I do think that this is this super interesting part of our jobs and your all's conversations right now in sales is like, you're like clients and prospects are here trying to make sense of all of this in I don't want to call it an old school way, but a dated way. I think it's dated. And now we're trying to kind of change not only the language, but like where your brain is at, like just how we separated attribution, like we kind of dissected it a little bit across this spectrum of like discovery versus that final tip into the basket. Like, I don't think a lot of marketing teams think about attribution in that way. And I know you got to have ROI, you got to have like who's driving what for budget and X, and I don't know how to sort that, but it's like changing the tide of the conversation, broadening people's mental scope on how all this stuff works and where energy and investment is put. It's an interesting place to be. I like it.
For what it's worth, I don't think it's easy or possibly even possible. But like it's like Maslow's hammer, where it's like every problem looks like a nail if all of you have as a hammer. So I think a lot of people within SEO are still kind of trying to approximate the performance using paradigms that look very similar to SEO, which like it does make sense in one specific sliver of that pie, which is like your on-site content, your performance of your website, and how that impacts GEO and AEO. But to train somebody on a different mode of thinking and measurement system is very difficult if they came from that background. And I'm not just picking on SEOs because it's true of all the other. Everybody's got their own, drum that they're beating on this. Like all the LinkedIn people are like, oh, LinkedIn Pulse, LinkedIn Social creators. All the Reddit people are like, oh, community Reddit. Oh, all the PR people are like syndication, press releases. Like it's like, I've talked about this before. There's enough data where you can effectively look at the sky, find a bunch of stars, and paint a constellation because there's so many damn stars, right? So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think unless you broaden your horizons into, like, back to the brand recall survey, like if your brand recall is low, like the first order of business, you're just like, oh, we need more people to know about our brand. So if you're like an email marketer, you're like, send some more emails. If you're, a field marketer, you're like, let's do more conferences, more dinners. If you're an advertising executive, you're like, let's put more billboards up. And like all of those things could move the needle. It's like each of those could impact that brand recall score. You get entrenched in your training and your background and where you feel like your experience is. Maybe it's a sense of pride. It's like, I know I'm good at this. I want to impact. I want to affect change. And that's why I find it interesting to work with some of our clients that are like a marketing or a growth team at one. It's like, well, shit, you're not going to have time to do all this stuff, but at least you can think across a whole spectrum of tactics. I almost find that they're more open to the hodgepodge of things that we want to do. Unfortunately, they don't have all the arms and legs to do them, but it is a different mindset when you're kind of sitting over a whole system versus being in just one specialty where your mind goes. Kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I've found in my conversations is a lot of people are asking more specifically for help with the earned media stuff because that tends to be the harder stuff that they don't fully understand. And candidly, I think it's a bit more nebulous too, because like you said, Alex, like you can do all of those things. Like technically all of those things would improve AI visibility or brand recall. But the conversation will be like, hey, I know you have you have SEO and content here, but do you have a community manager? Like you say you want to do Reddit, but who's going to do the posting and engagement there? Or have you done any customer surveys to see who's happy and ask them to write a review about you? Because you agree that's important, but who owns that right now, right? It's not the right people are in the room, like you said, Alex. Like for whatever reason, like we talked about this months ago, somehow SEOs ended up taking control of this, or like folks in PR, I think, as well. But that's just one piece of the picture. And what I'm telling clients and prospects right now is you got to expand the way you're thinking about this. And I think I didn't have the right framework to explain it, but I would really like the way you put it, Alex, where it's like you're focusing on a scoreboard and like you're trying to optimize that thing, but there's so many pieces that go into it, but you're thinking about this one specific thing of schema tags or Reddit. And even then on Reddit, like what if Reddit's saying that the product sucks? Like you can't change that.
It's almost like, and I don't think this is true universally, so caveat that, but it's like if you're doing things only to move the needle for AI visibility and there's no fundamental purpose out, if AI visibility didn't exist, if you didn't have that scoreboard, if there was no value to doing the thing, like should you be doing the thing? And I think most of the time the answer is no.
Yeah, that's kind of a sad like situation to be in. It's like you're optimizing for this thing, but there's no larger purpose except to optimize for that thing. I don't know if I'm describing it well, but it makes me kind of like, oh, that's a weird purpose.
I mean,
well, and I wanted to caveat it because I do think there's like on the margins things that could be preventing your AI visibility. And in that sense, you're doing something merely to optimize for AI visibility. So like if you're blocking bot crawls from your site so you can't get picked up in retrieval augmented generation, then, do the technical things to fix that. If you don't have content that answers specific queries that map to prompts that you validated that your customers search, like, ostensibly that is also for, web strategy and product marketing, but it's for AI visibility. So there's some things in the margins that I think are still meaningful to do, but for the most part, like if Reddit is not worth engaging in on its own in independent like strategy, is it worth it? Because it's a drop in the ocean in terms of the makeup of influence within AI search. Is it worth doing if it has no other value? Like to David, your point, if you have negative sentiment, it's totally worth it because you have negative sentiment on Reddit and people are going to be finding those things. But if there's no other reason, I just, at the very least, it's got to be deprioritized.
I mean, one and a very simple qualifying question is like, is your buyer on Reddit? And then the sentiment thing is obviously yes, because if people are talking about your product negatively, they're using your product, hopefully. So they're on Reddit. But yeah, we've had a number of clients be like, should I do Reddit? And I'm like, is your buyer on Reddit? Because if they're not, then it's not worth, it's very manual and resource intensive. Even if it is in the top 10, of the results in ChatGPT or whatever, that to me is not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
I'll even zoom out and say, like, one of our clients recently said, I'm very confident our ICP, like the people we want to sell to, are not using LLMs that much. I'm like, yes, I know it's a big thing right now, but I don't want to invest any time here. Like if we show up, great, it's cherry on top, but not my priority. And I respected that a ton. Like he was like, yeah, I know there's a lot of hype around it. I know you're doing it for your clients and I know we're measuring it. I don't care too much about it. Like you can tell me it's going up. That's great. But I know that most of my prospects are not on there. Like they're not that tech savvy, which was interesting.
Well, I think the irony of that too is that over the long term, they may actually end up outperforming the people who hyper focused on it too. Pending if they're doing the right things outside of that for go-to-market and marketing. But I don't know, maybe it's a naive belief, but I just have to imagine that some of the tactics that are being spoken about and denigrated, there's a lot of debate. It's not like it's just one unified voice talking about spam. I can't imagine over the long run those are going to work. So I don't know. I guess if short-term arbitrage is valuable to you, if that's the business you're in, like let it rip. But I don't know. I guess this is a little flippant, but I kind of riffed on this thing where
we are called the long game for a reason.
True. Yeah. The example that I talked about before and maybe doing a spoof case study on was Nike. And I imagine doing like a teardown of their website and going through and talking about like their cosine similarity and schema and FAQ, use of FAQs and all of that stuff. But the punchline is obviously that they're visible because they're Nike, right? And they've been doing incredible brand marketing for decades. And I'll even punch back at myself there. Obviously, that's like a survivor bias example. Like there's like very few people listening to this podcast are Nike, so they don't have that to back into. So like you have to do something if you're a Series A, Series D company. So, I'm not being completely intellectually honest when I use an example like that. But I think if you use that heuristic or like that general point, you're going to be better suited than some of the, we're an AEO agency. Like we started the business 3 months ago. Like you got to do these tactics. I think if like we're using extreme, almost caricature examples, I would rather be on the do good brand marketing side.
I do want to say that just to end it on like a note of excitement, I'm still so excited about all this stuff because I think there was a point where SEO, like, there wasn't really any really interesting research coming out anymore. It was just more of the same. But now, I mean, we're doing research, you're doing research, Alex, our competitors are doing research. It's all really interesting stuff. And people are learning and experimenting. Our team's experimenting with stuff, I found out. And I'm like, this is sick. I want to share more of this stuff. And it just gives me that same energy of when things felt new. So I know it's not everyone's cup of tea because it might feel uncertain and all that, but I love seeing the folks innovating, even if it's competitors, even if it's other folks just doing stuff that's not on our team. But it's cool to see our team doing it. And Alex, you're doing like the experimentation and innovation sessions now, and I'm revved up. This is all fun.
Same. I'm incredibly excited. We get to be scientists again.